Okay, we're going to make a room in Maya from a top-down blueprint that I created in Photoshop. Now, the first thing I actually do is sit in Sketch and I gather reference so I get a really good feeling about how I want this room to feel. It's a set piece. It's a film set. It's a set piece for a game. Either way, I want to know the story and how this room is going to fit into that story. What's the emotional tone? How's the player supposed to feel? How is the audience supposed to feel? And those are two different things. They may align, they may not. And I start to think that through with my sketching process. Once I'm done with my sketching process, I come into Photoshop and I make a top-down blueprint like what you see here. In this case, I started with a new document, 2K by 1K. So as always, trying to use powers of 2 for my resolution. Maya prefers 1024 by 1024, as do all software. It maximizes the use of memory if you use something that's 1024 by 1024 or 2048 by 2048. In this case, I wanted a rectangular shaped space, so I went 1024 by 2048. It's doing the best that I can in terms of optimizing the memory and working with the actual shape of the object. So I created my document with that image size, and then I adjusted the grid. To do that, it is Edit, Preferences, Grids. There we go, grid line, and this was set to every 50 pixels when I created it. And you can see now I have 1 square foot marked out so that I can line it up with the grid in Maya and get this blueprint to equal as 1 foot in Maya for this square. I also know that these windows are bay windows based on standard window sizes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 feet for each of these 2 windows, 2 foot gap between them. That'll help me line it up in Maya. Now, to do this quick drawing, I use the pen tool, P for pen, click, 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 and click on the first one to close it. And I'll zoom in using Control plus sign. Okay, that looks pretty good on the grid. So I'm going to right click and use Stroke Path, and let's go to my brush tool. My brush tool is currently set to a hard brush of 6 pixels, and it's going to take that setting to give me that. Maybe that's a dining room table, I don't know. I just made a rectangle to show you how to do that with the pen tool. You can also use the ellipse tool for a circle. So if there's an oval coffee table, I can make that, right click, stroke, and this gives me a different pop-up menu. 3 pixels, that's fine. Doesn't always have to be the same size. And that's why I get my different shapes. This is the bench seat for the bay window for a nice pretty little alcove. This is 1 couch, coffee table, chair, round end table, rectangular end table, another couch, just populating the room. And so that's what we're going to build in Maya. First thing we do in Maya is either go to our project window, create a new project, and I like to put that in my documents, never in the default Maya space, because if I'm working on a team, most people don't ever want to go into that Maya space. And if I'm working on 3 commercials at a time, my editors and my coworkers want to go to the project folder for the project that we're all working on together. And I'll put my Maya project inside that 1 commercial, and it keeps everything organized for my team. Now in this case, I already know what project I want, so I'm going to set my project, my multi-UDIM room. There we go. And now I've got my project set. In my project, in my source images where Maya always looks for all the images that come into Maya, I already have that blueprint. So I like to attach my image plane to my camera. So I'm going to actually select my top view, Control A for Attribute Editor, and I open up the Environment tab, I hit Image Plane Create, there it is, and image name, there it is, Room Top View, okay, and there it is, okay. Now I need to figure out my scale. So in Maya, I'm going to set my scale to feet. Windows, Settings, Preferences. And I am going to, first to Settings, I'm going to set this to feet. And now you can see my blueprint is teeny. So I'm going to have to fix that in a minute. But first, since I'm here in Preferences, let's look at some of the important ones. Polygons. With polygons, I want border edges on, and I set my edge width to 5. You can see I've already done that. This is not default. Having a thick edge width really helps me see where things are. It works for creases. It works for issues with normals. It tells me where things are, gives me a lot of useful modeling feedback. The other thing I like to do is under Selection, I turn on Select Faces with Center. And again, that's not the default. So you'll see why I like those faces on face on center in a little bit. Okay, it'll really come useful as we extrude certain parts. It also, it really comes in useful when extruding. I need a grid that's going to equal 1 square, 1 foot. So I go up to Display, Grid Options box. Now, in our grid options box, this first option, length and width, 12 units, that only applies to perspective window. There it is, 12. Don't know why they do that. It's never really been useful. I always just ignore that. Now, grid lines, every 10 units, that's going to be every 10 feet right now, because I just set my preferences to 1 unit equals 1 foot. So I'm going to drop that down to 5 for now and give it 5 subdivisions. And I want my numbers. This is really important. You got to have your numbers on. I like them on axes usually. Once in a while, I put them on the edge. And notice here that these are the default colors. Grid lines and numbers, I'll put that black. My subdivision units light gray, and my axes medium gray. On axis, 5 and 5. I hit apply. Okay. Now each of these units is 1 foot, and when I zoom out, you can see there's 5 feet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units. Mission accomplished. So I'm going to select my image plane and scale it up till 1 foot equals a square, and it takes me a moment or two, and a little bit off does make a difference. So I'll start with that square as my focus, and then I check it with these windows. Are these actually 5 units? And they're not quite yet, so I know I'm a little small. Adjust, move, just a hair more. Okay, there we go. Those windows are both looking at 5 feet, and that looks like 1 unit. I'm good to go. I like to start with Create Polygon tool and click, and you can see it's trying to make these polygons already. And here's my bench, so I click, and it's okay if it's off a little bit. I can fix that in a moment. Notice I don't need to close it. It's already automatically closed. I just hit enter, and there it is. And now I go to vertex mode. I hit F9 for vertex, or you can right click the more common way. I may grab these two and just scale them towards center. Now they're nicely flat. Fixing my human imperfections right now, using the scale tool to quickly scale those all together. This one, I'm just going to move. These look about right still. Give those a quick scale. Won't hurt. These four, scale them flat and see how that works. Cool. I'll call that pretty good. I'm not super worried if I'm off by a centimeter or, well, a fraction of a centimeter. I know that every part I've lived in has had slightly off from the measurements because it was made by humans. So when I hit 5 for smooth shade, 4 is wireframe, 5 is smooth shade, I'm seeing this is all black. That means my normals are reversed and I need to flip them. So I'll go to object mode, F8 or right click, and mesh tools, mesh display, reverse. And now I've got gray side up. And when I click on an object mode, green is y-axis up, blue towards the camera Z, and it's no longer all black. Then I'm going to go to the mesh tool, multi-cut tool, and multi-cut tool, and I'm going to quadrangulate. So I click and slide, and I click and it slide, and I slide that vertex into the corner, and it makes that line for me. I hit return. And then I do this and this. And here we go. Okay, so now this floor plan is all quads, and that means my edge loops later on are going to run all the way around the building. That'll be great. I'm going to jump to my top view, and I want to put in this interior wall. When I was laying this out in Photoshop, I made sure it was 4.5 inches apart because that's the standard internal length, internal width for a wall. There we go, multi-cut tool. And now I'm ready to extrude the edges. So F10 for edge mode, Q to select, double click, and I get that whole border edge. And that works. If I didn't quadrangulate, I would not get the whole border edge because the border edges only go, or because edge loops can only select through quad areas. They can't run through polygons with more than 4 sides or triangles, only quads. So now I want to extrude this out 4.5 inches, and that means I'm going to jump to my settings, Windows, Settings, Preferences, and set my feet to inches. And hit save, and you can't see it till I zoom in, but now my grid should be extremely dense. What's going on with my grid? Display grid options box. It's holding on to the feet there. So I'm going to jump to centimeters in a minute anyway. So length and width every, actually I'm just going to leave it. It's okay. I'll just leave it at, I'm going to leave this, we're at inches and my grid has disappeared because it's holding on to feet, so it's so teeny I can't even see it. And I'm going to select this border edge and extrude the edges. First, you got to make sure that you're not extruding faces. If I select the internal faces and extrude up, it's going to give me this space. Now, if I just extrude it out, it's going to give me that set of faces directly over this, and that causes a lot of problems. Oops. And you can see that there are problems because I have faces turned on, face centers turned on. I can see, whoa, I'm getting all these weird doubled up faces. So that's one of the reasons I do it. It's an early warning sign. So again, I'll double click on my border edge. Border edge, double click. Whoop. Double click, and I'm going to extrude it out, and in this little options box that comes up, I'm going to say offset 4.5, and that pops it out evenly 4.5 Maya units all the way around the thing. Since I just set myself to inches, yay, that makes it really easy. Now some of this is exterior wall. I'm cheating a little there. Exterior walls are thicker than 4.5 inches, but that's fine. And just to check I'm getting that right, I'm going to create a distance dimension, create measure tools, distance tool. And the first thing I want to do is, I guess I'll go here, and I'll hold down V to snap to that vertex. And it's not giving me the right info, so I'm going to undo. And with my distance dimension tool, object mode, to select that locator. That's 4.5 units, close enough. Edge mode, double click, Control E to extrude. Oops, not thickness, offset, 4.5. So if it's not giving me what I want, I can just slide. There we go. That's going to be 4.5 inches because I measured it with that distance tool. And that looks more like this one. Okay, so now I know I'm correct. I want to select this face ring all the way around, so I can select one, double click on the wet next to it, and that grabs, oops, I triple clicked, to deselect, and that grabs all these all the way around. And then I want my bench and my center wall. I'm going to go back to my Maya units. This time I'm getting to preferences by the little guy with the gear down there, and I go to settings, and I'm going to go to centimeters. And this is because I have most of my measurements converted to centimeters already. There we go. And here I'm going to my front view. I'm resetting my grid display, grid options box. Set that first one to 20. Grid lines every 10 units, 5 subdivisions. So each little box is going to be a 2 by 2 centimeter square. There we go. Now I want to extrude all of these up. So I want to raise this up 18 inches for the bench seat in the bay window. And 18 inches is 45.7 centimeters. I'm going to extrude. I'm going to test thickness here, see if it's going to be my friend. 45.72. Yeah. 246 right there. It's at 45.72, just below it. So that worked really nicely. By switching back to centimeters now for the detail work, I'm able to use that extrusion per unit really cleanly. Now I want to get rid out of selection my bay window seat because that's not going to come up any higher. Now I've just got my walls. And I want my walls to be 8 feet tall. Eight feet is 243.84 centimeters. So on Extrude again, I don't do the math for whatever the 45 and 243. I just move it up. There we go. Spacebar to maximize. Bring it down. 242, 244, so that's going to be 243 right there. Okay, so there is my room interior ready to rock, and I'm going to select those walls. Here we go. And I'm going to make a ceiling from them. So make sure it fits perfectly. I'm going to say Edit, Mesh, Duplicate Face. So when I duplicate face, there's now this group, and in the group is the original, and then those walls that are right there. So I'm going to try selecting this inside border edge, and then Mesh, Fill Hole, and I'm going to do the same here. G to repeat. If I'm worried about it, I can quadrangulate again. It's often a good idea. Recent commands, I hold down the spacebar to get this, and I say multi-cut tool, boom, 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 and boom, and there we go, locked it in. So let's try that again. 1, 2, boom, 1, and there. Now that's quads and clean, except for that one doesn't quite work. If I really want it to be quads, and I guess I can run it out all the way to there. Now if I have any needs, it's going to work. Back to face mode, F11 or right click, and Q to select. I'm going to just double click on this face. That's going to give me that whole ceiling, and I'm going to control E to extrude. I'm going to raise that up 22 centimeters. That's about 8 inches. Not perfect, but I was at 243 plus 2 is 5. Oh, wait, I'm just going to use my thickness, 22. There we go. That's about 8 inches. So ballpark close enough to real world floor. Sometimes that's a foot. It depends on the expense made in the building when building it. So there's my ceiling. I'm going to quickly make a layer with this icon, which means create layer from object, and you can see when I hide it, it's visibility. There's my roof. Perfect. I'm going to leave that there. And invisible. Now I want to make a window, or actually I'm going to make these 2 entryway doors. So I'm going to start back in my top view. These doors line up, so that's kind of easy for me. So mesh tool, multi-cut, and these are going to be the vertical lines. So I hold down Control, and there I get, and if I go to that inside line, you can see holding down Control is giving me the edge loop. So there's 1, and then there's 2. Now you'll notice that this line and this line are coming in diagonally. So, and that makes sense because it's trying to line itself up with this diagonal and this diagonal. So to fix that, I'm going to marquee select all of these vertices, scale them flat, and then move them so that they're back over that door line. Select these, scale them flat, Move them back over the door line. And then, and these doors should be, I believe, 3 feet width. It's a fancier door when it's 3 feet. Typical interior is more like 30, but exterior is more often 36. So I'm playing back and forth, and those vary. They're not totally one way or the other. A door height is 6'8" or 80 inches. And 80 inches is 203 centimeters. So now I know that I'm going to struggle to get it that perfect. So I'm just going to ballpark the first 2 lines I put in. So hold down the space bar to bring up my recent commands, multi-cut tool, 1, and on the inside, 2, and then I'm going to need 1 here. Whoop. Okay, so now I've got my exterior, interior for this part, and interior for this part, and I can say scale them all to the same height. By selecting them all, I'm scaling them all in Y. They're all now the same height, and I want these at 203, so I zoom in so I can see these numbers, and move, move, move. Up we go, 202, 203. There we go, 80-inch door frames. Now I need to make the holes, so I select face, 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 and face. Might as well do the same on here. Delete, and I'm good to go. So I always try the easy way first. I'm going to bridge these. So double click, and if I get that whole thing the way around, edit mesh, bridge, cool. And if that doesn't work for some reason the first time, I'll just go one then the other, and in this case G to repeat, and it'll bridge. Now since I've done that, I can't. Oh, now this one is a little different because I don't have the geometry here for this little part. So I'm going to select this, double click, and I'm going to have to do it this way. So I'll click this one, double click, so I select this one and its mate, same order, these two, G to bridge or G to repeat, and now I can click this one. There we go, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and 3, and G to repeat, and now that's all clean in there, and I might as well put in that little step, G to repeat. Okay, so there's 2 doors quickly cut in. I do the same thing for the windows. So I'm ready to make the windows, and standard window height is 71.2 centimeters. So I'm going to want another edge loop, or now I've got that bay window to take into account, so I really do need to do multi-cut tool, clear my selection, spacebar, recent commands, multi-cut tool, control, there's 70, 71, and teeniest little bit. And that's the exterior line. But my exterior line is now going all the way through. Oh, that's kind of cool. This floor space is not a polygon. It's got a 5-sider there, or it is a polygon, but it's a 5-sider. This floor space is an n-gon. It's got 5 sides based on this part here. So for my bay window, it's giving me that diagonal, so that's okay. And there's my bay window, and it's editing it here. That's all right for now. Grab my vertices, F9, R to scale them flat, do the same for these, move them so they're right on, and these windows are all 5 feet wide on the blueprint, and the standard height 5 by 3, and 3 feet is 91.4. So in this case, I can grab this interior line, make sure not where it connects to the door, because that's going to give me something else. And I want to move it till it's just 90 centimeters above this, which is at 71, 7 and 9 is 16. So drag this down to 162. Okay. Whoop, tumble. F11, grab those and delete. Whoop, F11, delete, there we go. And then I can very simply double click, and let's try that bridge. Edit mesh. Okay, it doesn't want to do the whole thing at once, so I'll go one t'other. Edit mesh, bridge. Yeah, no, it didn't like that at all. So well, let's try the shortcuts. But I'll do this one. It's not liking something. You can see it's giving me border edges here, and that's always important. You know, this is why I have border edges. It's giving me a sign something's not right. I should not be getting border edges there. So I'll try to fix that in just a minute. First approach is I'm going to grab all these vertices, edit mesh, and merge. Now, there's only one vertex there, so can I merge these edges? Edit mesh. Merge. Now, that did nothing. Looks like there's an extra vertex in there somehow. When I get in close, there's a gap. Okay, so I can solve that easily. Now that I've found the problem, I just grab those two, and if you select any two vertices, they will merge. And you can see the threshold is really low, it doesn't matter. And that's that one. And I guess this one probably has the same problem. There. Okay. And then I don't know what that did in terms of slightly tweaking those, so I'll make sure these are scaled flat. These four, I have 6 selected, so I have something I don't want. Okay, 2 there. Let's get rid of those. Now I only have 4 selected, and I'll scale them flat in this direction. Control select those to get them out of selection. Now I just have my 4, and there we go. So there's my bay window. I'm not going to make these 2 windows here on this video because you've seen it 3 times. That ought to be plenty. And I can throw my roof on and good to go.